How hard is it to work with watercolor?
Well, most of my covers are acrylic, but I use it like watercolor. Acrylic kind of stays in place a little bit better. Watercolor, you kind of have to plan out ahead of time. It doesn't layer at all, so that's why I don't normally do watercolor for the covers. It's harder to make corrections, but there is a recent cover that I did. It's the first one I've done all in watercolor, and it was very simple for that reason, but it's very sweet. But yeah, I've used traditional media like all my life. Acrylic first, watercolor I'm still trying to get a handle on. But yeah, it's just practice with any medium. It's just putting time in and patience, so yeah.
What is it about that style you're attracted to?
Well, I really like Art Nouveau and Art Deco. So like the line work in both those kind of art movements really inspire like the line work that I put into my art. So like Art Nouveau is more known for the organic kind of swoopy lines, and then Art Deco is kind of the more geometric, sort of more design-oriented kind of compositions. Color-wise, I grew up on Lisa Frank, so like there's a lot of really bright colors.
Yeah, I have two sisters. I'm very familiar with Lisa Frank.
All the stationery and towels and everything that they put the killer whales on, because those are my favorites. But yeah, so like I really love those Art Nouveau, Art Deco, like Lisa Frank neon colors. I grew up on Gem as well, so like any bright colors. Yeah, so I'm actually gonna start looking into figuring out digital a little bit and trying to figure out how to make that look like my style now, just as an extra kind of tool in the toolbox. But I will always stick with traditional paint.
And I am so sorry for the Gem and Holograms movie.
Yeah, we're mourning. We're still mourning.
Although I will say, I think that fandom handled that situation a lot better than the Ghostbusters did.
Ooh, it was
think maybe girls know how to handle stuff a little better than we do.
So
You don't say.
Is there less corporate pressure doing the comics?
IDW is super cool because they kind of knew what they were getting into with each of us in terms of style. So they're really lenient at letting us kind of explore our different styles as long as each character is recognizable. But you know, there are limitations too. So you still got to keep Rainbow Dash looking like Rainbow Dash, and you know, you can't change up the colors too much because you know Hasbro obviously won't approve it. But I mean, I know just doing covers, I've had it pretty lucky where there hasn't been too much issue, but you guys do much more work than I do with the interiors.
Yeah, they don't, it's real rare that we get hit with any sort of notes, and they're not like, they're not ever like you can't do this, like, by the time the script has gotten all the way through and you're to the art part, they're not going to tell us not to do some scene or some, you know, some design or something like that, but it'll more just be like, this neck's too long, or, you know, I just got a note the other day that I drew Tempest's hips too big. So they wanted to be a little leaner. And I was like, all right, that's fair, but like before that, I don't think it had been like a year since they said anything. So they're pretty few and far between. She's right, they sort of like, when they hired us, they're like, these are the people, this is what they're gonna do, and we just sort of do that and try and do a good job, and they're like, this is what we're looking for.
How do you apply your craft to MLP?
I mean, I honestly just try to draw ponies to the best of my ability, trying to match what the other artists are doing, but it's just through my style. So it's not like a concentrated effort to be different, but sort of the way I've experienced is both IDW and Hasbro have been very encouraging of us having our own creative voices in this. So while I'm not trying to push it, I'm not trying to pull back either. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's been a very great experience for me.
And you, sir?
Yeah, I guess I kind of look at whatever I do as a like fine art, I guess. Like each cover I want to have like something that you could hang up on the wall, I guess, while still keeping the characters and the story in there, creating a really nice composition. But yeah, I'm a huge fine art nerd, so like I kind of look at something from what I would like to see in a gallery, or hope to see in a gallery someday. But then also having the traditional media going into it, it kind of pushes it in that direction anyway. So the hardest part I have is sometimes mixing the colors to be right. So like Lyra especially has this TV green that is like almost impossible to mix into paint. So luckily I haven't had to paint her too much. But Tempest was actually kind of tricky to get the right body color on her. Like her hair color, I had paints ready to go for. but her body color is kind of this like very specific purple, red, raspberry. It was really fun though, like to try and make it fit. Whereas if somebody was doing digital, they could just kind of like color pick it.
Her colors are so dark too that you
Yeah.
have to play a lot of highlights to
Yep.
make her.
Yeah, and I just had you sign that comic book for me that had her on it, and it came out great, by the way. It looks fantastic.
Play with like the upshot lighting with like the aquas and to have like art school nerd, color theory.
Would you like to do a bigger project?
That I'm in comics is because I want to eventually do my own stuff, like make my own stories. A lot of people, like, if you ask them what they want to do in comics, they're like, I want to draw Batman, I want to draw Spider-Man or something. I've got like, 10, 15 stories that I'm like, oh, I gotta tell that story before I die, which could be any time now. I'm in terrible shape right now.
I actually don't draw webcomics. I've been in graphic novels since the beginning of my career 10 years ago. So my first graphic novel was Dead Duck. It came out in 2009. Put out a graphic novel of Bodhi Troll in 2013. Just put out a new Bodhi Troll graphic novel this past spring. And we're going to be doing the next book of that, both through Boom, probably in another year. So, I mean, I'm already living the dream I wanted, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, do you have any, and I'm not going to ask you to go into any specifics of plot or anything, obviously. Would you want to continue with that same series, like continue with Bodhi Troll, or go into something entirely different?
Honestly, if I could do Bodhi for the rest of my life, I would do that. But having said that, I would still make room for some new stuff as well. I just think Bodhi is such a solid universe in my imagination that would take precedence.
Yeah, like Tony was saying, I just had a graphic novel come out. It took me about a year to work on because every page is hand painted, which is the main reason why I haven't, tried to throw my hat into too many issues. Like me and or My Little Pony issues. Me and Tony worked on issue 31. It's a Little Strong Heart and Rainbow Dash, where Tony wrote it and did the majority of the pages, and then I did a story within a story. So I did about 6 pages, and then we did a joint page at the very end. So that was really fun to kind of combine our styles. But the book that just came out in May, The Ghost of the Owl, like I said, every page is an acrylic painting. So like I want to do more of that. I want to, it's a story that my friend wrote and I illustrated. We want to expand that story a little bit.
Yeah, I've got two creator-owned things that I'm building, I'm putting together right now.
One of them's amazing. I can't wait. So good.
Yeah, so this time next year I'll have new stuff to talk about. But
Yeah.
I did the book called The Sniper. It came out last year. It was a sci-fi comedy. I'm working on another sci-fi comedy and like a horror.
Is the process of pitching a comic similar to pitching an episode?
Comic you write, when I pitched, I would do a series of, it's 2 different ways. I mean, several different ways, but the 2 ways I've done it are you do like a series of springboard pitches where it's just like a real short, like the one we did together was like Little Strong Heart and Rainbow Dash have to get like some mystical object and they race each other to get to it. That's the short pitch. And then if they go, oh, we like that, tell me more. Then you do like a paragraph or like a half a page. And that's the thing they actually have to pitch to Hasbro. So, like, first you're just getting through your editor to see if it's something that they even care. And then secondly, they send like a whole packet of things to Hasbro and they go like, here's, 20 ideas from all the writers. Look at them and tell us what you like. And they send it back and they say, this one's cool, this one's cool, this one we're doing something like it in the show, this one we don't like. This one, I had one rejected because it had like psychedelic drugs in it. They're like, we don't do psychedelics, of course. It's for children, what's wrong with you? This one's cool, we don't like this. And so then they'll come back and they'll say, okay, here's the ones we're gonna do. Jeremy, you're doing this one. Tony's gonna do this one. We don't have a meeting or anything, but they just send out the emails and say, like, here's what you're gonna work on. So that's pretty much how they do it.
Do you ever ask the show writers for input?
Yeah, they sort of take care of it ahead of time. They, when they're going into a season, they'll send us like a document that's like, here's what we're doing. You can have the scripts, and then also here's a list of jump-off ideas that we'll provide you. So like last season, they said Fluttershy's getting an animal sanctuary. Do an issue about her having to put the animal sanctuary together, or like dealing with the animal sanctuary right from the start. So that way they could, like last season especially was really well coordinated where the issue came out right after the episode happened. Or sometimes if there was a mess up, it come out like right before, and they're like, what's this animal sanctuary? But like with Legends of Magic, that started coming out and it just seemed like it was just a comic book thing, right? Just like these new characters, here's this, and then, 3 months later, Campfire Tales comes on, and you're like, holy crap, these are real, for real in the show characters, and I already know who they are. So when we can, we try to be as tightly connected as possible. But also, like, those guys are making a show or making comics, so it's a lot of work to negotiate all that. But we got a new assistant editor now, and she's really getting her hands in there and sort of figuring out how to get everything working. I mean, we're working already, but now we got somebody else helping out.
What makes the annual comics so special?
I think what makes them special is that they're always sort of like something that is not happening in the comics for the most part. Like the superhero one, the Power Ponies issue is the only Power Ponies comic. The Equestria Girls one is the only Equestria Girls comics. This year, Legends of Magic, there was already a Legends of Magic, but that one sort of like was like the grand finale. So they try and make it a story that's too big to put in just one issue of a comic,
And from what I understand, Guardians of Harmony was actually not intended to be an annual issue, right?
Yeah, it was gonna. I feel like I'm answering all these questions. It was gonna be originally they were gonna do comics as pack-ins with the toys, like back in the day when you'd buy like a He-Man, you would get a comic book that came with it, and they were gonna do that. So we did these little 8-page stories, and each of them correspond with one of the first wave of Legends of Harmony toys. But yeah, so they were gonna do pack-ins with the comics, and we're like, oh, that's the coolest thing, because like we're from the generation of He-Man toys. Like I would totally love for a kid to get my comic book and a toy that they bought, or a grown-up. That's fine too. But then all of a sudden I was like, these toys seem to be coming out really soon, and we haven't started working on these comics yet. And I don't think it was a matter of anybody being late or anything. It was just a matter of like wires getting crossed between Hasbro and IDW and everything else. And so then all of a sudden the toys were just coming out. And we're like, I guess these probably aren't going in there. And so then it turned into the annual. But what happened was, because annuals are a certain length, there's a whole story that did not even show up in there that me and Jay did together. I wrote it, he drew it, and it was Spike. And it was for the Spike and Queen Chrysalis toy.
Oh, man, I would have loved to have read that.
She turns into Rarity to try and get Spike to let her out of jail. Because she's in the jail from the comics. And yeah, so he almost lets her out of jail.
Bummer, that sounds so awesome.
Look, we're trying to find some place to have him put it out in, but it's just like this 8-page story that's on the FTP somewhere, floating around.
What's your stance on the comics being canon?
Right. They sort of, like, the way that we write the stories is that they sort of fall between the raindrops, like if you put out a big map of everything that happened in the history of Equestria, you could be like, oh, this would have happened here, Reflections Arc could have happened here, Nightmare Rarity could have happened here. And then there are some that just get canceled out, like the Sirens Fiendship issue.
Yeah.
Like now we know, like, well, there's no real place that could have really happened. That's just like
Someone's fever dream.
yeah, like a fake story that somebody told their kids about sirens, like as a bedtime story or something. Like,
Well, not exactly, because from what I saw with the show, or at least in the Legends of Magic comic, Star Swirl sends them to another dimension, but you don't see which dimension it was. It could have been the one that was in Fiendship and then went from Fiendship into the real world.
exactly.
Yeah.
In Marvel Comics, they used to call it a no prize, where like they would make a mistake or there'd be some sort of continuity slip up, and then the readers would write in and say like, well, what could have happened is Ghost Rider, like he took off going one way, and he probably stopped by Fantastic Four in between there, and that's when they had that adventure. It's not that it didn't happen; it just could happen.
You described the entire impetus behind fan fiction.
Right, exactly. You're just
We're filling in the
dots.
gaps between the gaps.
Yeah.
Raindrops.
So I always,
back around later on.
Yeah.
Somehow.
and we're always also looking for ways to sort of connect. Like, say we do a story in the comics, and then the TV sort of like pushes it out of canon, or like does something that just like contradicts it. Then we're just like, well, what can we do to make that work? So like in Nightmare Nights, there's like a bunch of different universes. Like characters come from other universes. So like you could have like Reflections characters or characters from Equestria Girls stories, all like interacting in this place. And so I'm just like, well, can we make it so that everything? So like you'd look through one, like a window to one world, and it's like, oh, you see in there that's like actual TV show. Like, you see in there and it's the actual TV universe, and you see over here and it's the reflection universe or whatever. And like all these things are sort of all existing and sort of making it easier to tie everything together. But the short answer is the comics are canon, and if the TV show contradicts it, then the TV show goes out of canon.
All right, thank you.